Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be telling you about the 9 books that I had the pleasure of reading in February. So I have like this mini goal to try to read 10 books every month. I obviously did not do that in February. I got very close. I finished the 10th book on the 1st of March, but I will tell you about that next month. But I will hopefully read 11 books to make up for it this month. That is my goal. But I had such a good reading month as far as what I read, and I am really looking forward to going through that with you. So let's just jump in. The first book that I read, I listened to on audiobook, and that is You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life by Jen Sincero. And this, I think I would have appreciated a lot more a few years ago when I bought it. Unfortunately, I kicked off the month with a 2-star read, but it was just very basic, and I feel like this was kind of not new, but more, it was more exciting in 2013 when this came out. And if I had read it going on 10 years ago now, I think I would have gotten more from it. But I feel like because self-help books have become a lot more like this and maybe gone a little further or been a little bit more helpful, to me this was just very basic, and I probably should have read it in college when I bought it. I think I would have gotten more out of it being younger. But yeah, it presents some pretty basic ideas. It's just a lot of like, look on the positive side, you know, do your shit. I don't know, it's just, yeah, it was just fine. I don't know. I don't even know how to talk about it because it was just so like, okay. So I feel like because it's basic, that's why it sold so many copies. You know, it applies to everybody, but because it's so basic, I've read this kind of book a lot, so I'm good. Next up, I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I really liked this. This took me a lot longer than I felt like it should have. It's a middle grade, so I didn't think it would have taken me that long, but I did ultimately give it a 4-star. I loved it a lot. This is about this town that everyone just lives in perpetual sorrow. They never leave. They don't go into the woods because they're scared of what's in the woods, including the witch. And the witch, the townspeople believe that the witch requires them to sacrifice a baby every single year in order to stop them stop her from attacking their town. The witch doesn't understand why these townspeople keep abandoning a baby in the woods every year, and she rescues it, feeds it Starlight, and then gives it to a family in a different town that wants a baby. And these children are exceptional. They're star children. And one day she rescues one of these children and she accidentally feeds the baby Moonlight, so she's enmagicked. So now they have to deal with a magic child, and it's a really beautiful story. She writes different POVs beautifully, and you knew exactly who was talking, and they were very distinct. The story is just, it takes so many different directions. It was not like a basic middle grade. I didn't really know what it was going to end up doing, and it ultimately was just a really beautiful story about friendship and family and love. And I really enjoyed it a lot. I understand why people loved this so much, and I am happy that I finally got around to reading this. It was a 4-star. It wasn't completely perfect. I'm not the target audience. Beautiful book though. Next up, I read one of my favorite books. Audiobooks have been really good to me this year. I read I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. I read this in a day. I could not put it down. I started it on the way to get coffee one morning, and then I just listened to it through my work day. I could not. I loved it so much. It is about Michelle McNamara. She is a woman who unfortunately passed away before this book was finished and published. She is the wife of Patton Oswalt, and she can tell a story. Oh my God, it is about her hunt for the Golden State Killer. It is so well written. And it is really sad because she didn't get to finish the book before she passed away. She did not get to see the arrest of the Golden State Killer. And truly, the book, about 3/4 of the way through, is taken up by her editors, basically, or 2 people she worked with on the case. And you can just tell the difference. The storytelling is just not the same. It's still good and you still get a lot from it. But Michelle, they talk about how Michelle had such a good way of presenting all of these horrible details, but still humanizing everybody. And really, like, I watch a lot of true crime. I read a lot of true crime, and she just did a beautiful job of not going too far, not describing things that would have been disrespectful to the families of the victims. It was very humanized, which is amazing and kind of hard to find because a lot of people go for the shock value of these crimes, and Michelle did not do that. She had a great way of presenting all of this evidence and like really specific stuff about this case, and then flipping it back to a narrative, so you never got inundated with too much evidence or statistics or things like that, or descriptions of, you know, crime. It was always with the great understanding that this was going to be a book that people were going to read, and that, you know, she never got too gruesome. It was all very respectful, and it was also with the understanding that not everyone has the brain to take like a ton of fact. It was wonderfully done. I want to reread it like immediately. I would highly recommend it. The audiobook is really, really well done. I loved it. I loved it so much. Probably one of the best books, if not the best book I read this year so far. It's just stuck with me. It's just wonderfully, beautifully done. Next up, I listened to Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee by Casey Koepp. I gave this a 3-star. This was not my all-time favorite nonfiction to listen to. It was a little dense in parts. It basically talks about one of the last stories that Harper Lee was trying to write. She ultimately did not end up writing it, but it is about a story that was based in fact, where this reverend was basically murdering people for life insurance money and was finally shot at a funeral. And then Harper Lee came to the trial of the man who shot the reverend, and she talked to everybody in the town and really did all of this research for a book written about it that ultimately never got finished or published. And it really dives into the life of Harper Lee and, you know, who she was and why she never really wrote another book after To Kill a Mockingbird, because, you know, Go Set a Watchman was written before To Kill a Mockingbird, and it is a really interesting, well done book. It was just a little, I don't know, kind of dense. There were parts where I was kind of bored. You know, it's fascinating to read about these people and the horrible things that people do. And then it was also really fascinating to read about Harper Lee, just because I never read To Kill a Mockingbird in school. I read it in my free time and really enjoyed it, so I never got to study her, and being able to learn so much about her as a person was really interesting. But I think I probably rated it lower too, because after I'll Be Gone in the Dark, I had very high expectations for my audiobooks. Next up, I read This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I read this on audio, and I don't know if that was a good idea, but it was pretty much the only way that I could get my hands on this book, so I just went for it. I ultimately gave it a 3-star. I had really good luck with listening to Comfort Me with Apples on audiobook, so I was hoping this would kind of be like that. They're both shorter horrors. I don't know why, but Comfort Me with Apples really translated well on audio, where I think This Thing Between Us did not quite so much. It would lose me a lot. Comfort Me with Apples, I would replay parts because it would be like shocking and like, wait, I must have heard that incorrectly. This one, it would be like I would be sitting there listening to it and be like, wait a second, go back, what? And I don't want to say I was less scared, but kind of. There were moments where I was like, the fuck? But it had a certain element that I just did not like. And I don't know, it's a wall. It's a wall, I'll basically say. It's not a spoiler, it's a wall. And I don't know, I kind of would like laugh about it every time he would talk about this wall appearing, and I'd just be like, what the fuck? If you don't like animal or pet death, not your book. Listening to it was a lot. I think when I read things, I'm able to separate myself a little bit more. When I was listening to it, I was like, oh, so 3 stars. It was okay, but not my favorite. Next up, another one of my favorite books that I've read this year. This shit blew me away, and it's all because of Kayla from Books and Lala. Like, as usual, my favorite books are because of Kayla. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I loved this. I genuinely was just on a ride the whole time. From the first chapter, I was like, oh, I'm into this. It is about our main character. What's her name? Jessica. And it has been 10 years since she graduated college, and she is going back and she has plans. She is going to be that girl. She's going to be the it girl. She's going to walk in and everybody's going to be like, damn, Jessica Miller is amazing. She's really grown into herself. She is all that. And things happen because back when Jessica went to this school, what is it called? I always forget. Duquesne University. Her best friend was murdered, and they believe that one of her other friends did it. He was not able to be proven. He was found not guilty, and yeah, but obviously that darkened her college experience a little bit. She has this friend group that they've kind of lost touch, but every single one of them has a secret and everyone has a story as to what was going on with Heather, the girl that was murdered, and why maybe they had a hand in what happened to her. And we basically find out who killed Heather and why, and it was such a ride. Everyone has secrets. Everyone has a reason to dislike Heather. It was so good, and I had no complaints the whole time. I was like, holy shit, this is everything. So I'm super, super happy with this. I already want to reread it, which does not happen with me and thrillers or mysteries. It's got like the dark academia, but in like a, I don't want to say more believable sense, but kind of. I definitely went to a school that was kind of like this. High Point University represent. We have a 2020 episode on us because of murder there. But it was very like, not the top of the top for academics, but it was like very impressive. Like you walked on campus and you were like, damn, what? And there were a lot of rich kids. And I understand how Jessica feels, not being rich and feeling like you have to try to keep up with the Joneses of everyone around you. So I think that's a part of the reason I love this, was because I was like, yeah, I've been here. They talked about Rush and different things. They talked about Rush and everything else. And I just saw my college experience in this book without like the giant group of friends. But like, yeah, no, I was like, no, I knew people like this. I related to Jessica on certain levels. It was really good. It was really good. I would highly recommend, if you like mystery thrillers, pick this one up. It's incredible. Next up, I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, and I was just reminded why TJ Klune's writing is some of my favorite. It's like a warm hug. I do love reading his books in winter because there's just something very cozy and heartwarming about what he writes about. This follows our main character. What is his name? I'm always the word. I'm like, it's not Linus. Wallace. Wallace has died, and he has come to this tea shop as a kind of like a stop on the journey of what happens to you after death. And he meets, what is his name? Hugo. He meets Hugo, who is a ferryman whose job is just to get him ready for what comes after death. But Wallace is not ready, so he decides to spend some time at this tea shop. Wallace was not the nicest person in his life, and we kind of just follow his journey at this tea shop and the people that reside there. It is so heartwarming. It was not the 5-star that House in the Cerulean Sea was, but it was a very, very lovely 4-star for me. It made me think a lot, and it kind of, I don't want to say it got me out of depression, but it did like kind of kickstart me back into like motivation and kind of like, hey, you don't have forever on this earth and your life doesn't last forever, so you should probably not waste your time lying in bed and playing iPhone games. And I feel like I needed that. Like that sounds, I mean, wow, we're talking about death, but I think it's a good reminder, and it does it in such a lovely way that it was just like, yeah, you don't have forever, and sometimes your life is taken from you, and sometimes it's a shock, and you have to remember that like every day could be your last, which is like kind of dark, but also like if you look at it in a more hopeful, make this day count kind of way, is more of how TJ Klune writes it and how I took it, and I really just appreciated the hell out of his writing, and he is the perfect man to write about this because it's just so well done. The queer representation is so nice. Wallace is bisexual and it's a great time. Yeah, I love bisexual rep as a bisexual myself. I love it. I love it when it's done well. Yeah, love it. And I just love TJ Klune, and I will read anything he writes because it's a warm hug every time. Next up, I listened to and read a little bit of this, People We Meet on Vacation. This is about Poppy and Alex. They are best friends who used to go on annual summer trips together. Poppy is a travel journalist, and we get to see flashbacks of their trips in the past. About 2 years ago from the present day of this book, they went on a trip and something happened that ended their friendship, and they have not gone on their annual summer trip until this year, where Poppy decides to take Alex on a trip to Palm Springs and try to rebuild their friendship. I really love the way this was done. Poppy is really fun and cute, and both Poppy and Alex's characterization is really believable, and I understand them as a couple. Like sometimes I read romances and I'm like, okay. This made sense to me. I liked it. It was very like opposites attract, friends to lovers, and it was really cute and fun, and I definitely want to read more Emily Henry because it was a long one, but it was also like really good. I usually don't like my romances that long, but I felt like everything really helped to paint the picture of their friendship and why they would be a good couple. It's not a spoiler. Every romance, you know how it's gonna end, but it took some turns, and I liked the way it was done here. I liked how they were dealing with their issues. 4-star. Had a lot of fun. And finally, the book I listened to on the last day of the year was Atomic Habits. Let me read the tagline of this. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones by James Clear. And I love this. I already want to listen to it again just as a reminder. This is one of the self-help books that I appreciate because it has actionable items in not a like take charge of your life kind of way. It was more like, hey, you want to break a bad habit and start a good habit? Do this. And it was like, yeah, I can do that. I love his one rule, which is start with just 2 minutes. I only have to do it for 2 minutes. And I loved that. And I've actually tried to put a lot of it in. It's only been 3 days, but I've been trying to create better habits. I've been trying to, you know, do more with my time. Telework is hard some days, especially when you have seasonal depression, but being able to create better habits and working to create those habits because I understand that I'm worth good habits has been really great. I want to read it all again. I mean, because I read it in a day because I was so invested, but I do want to like read it again and kind of soak it in, maybe buy it, read it physically and annotate it because I do think it was a self-help book that is worth the time and is actually helpful, which is funny because I started and ended the month with self-help books. One I gave a 2-star and one I gave a 5-star. I really liked this and I felt like it was all very achievable and not like cliche. So 5 stars. So those are the 9 books that I read in February. I would say I had a pretty good month. I read some absolutely wonderful books. I found 2 new favorites and another one that I want to reread. I got 3 books this month that I already want to reread. That's great. But let me know down below what you read in February and what your favorite book of the month was. But thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.